Style beyond sound. The fashion evolution of BTS over a decade ago, the landscape of the Korean entertainment industry was about to change forever. The world was on the cusp of witnessing one of the most successful bands to ever exist, bigger than the Beatles, bigger than NSYNC, and even bigger than One Direction. A group that would gain cult status across the globe, connecting people through music despite the language barrier, bridging generations, pushing against the status quo, and while doing so, also claiming the title of being some of the best-dressed individuals in the industry. They, of course, are BTS, Bangtan Sonyeondan, a South Korean pop group that would become everyone's favorite band, including mine. Hailing from different parts of the country, the band is made up of 7 members, the oldest, Kim Seokjin, Jin, followed by Min Yoongi, Suga, Young Hoseok, J-Hope, Kim Namjoon, RM, Park Jimin, Jimin, Kim Taehyung, V, and the youngest, Jeon Jungkook, JK. When the group first debuted in 2013, they weren't exactly known for their style, even garnering a few odd looks here and there. At the time, they leaned heavily into the bad boy aesthetic, with intense eyeliner and smoky eyes, which, looking back, they described as reflecting the passion in their eyes. However, BTS are chameleons when it comes to style. They have continuously evolved over time, adopting trends as they emerged, and even starting many of them. As the world's biggest band, their style isn't just a fashion statement but a core part of their identity. Much like how science tells us, when one sense is weakened, the others become more heightened. Similarly, BTS uses fashion to amplify connection where language may fall short. For a group that carries out most of their activities in Korean, their visual identity becomes one of their strongest points. It bridges their personas with their global fanbase, becoming a language in itself, one that brings comfort, recognition, and familiarity. In their early debut days, there was an obvious and strong influence from hip-hop in both their music and style. Their first EP, Too Cool for School, showcased the rebellious energy that would carry through their career, not in an anarchic way, but one that would shatter the status quo and the idea of perfection, making them deeply human and relatable to their diverse audience. This also bled through into their personal and professional styles. Their first 2 years, from Too Cool for School to Dark and Wild, 2013 to 14, had very similar themes in terms of aesthetics. Think oversized jerseys, snapbacks, bandanas, chains, and so on. It was a clear homage to hip-hop streetwear. There were even moments and events where they leaned into a more punk aesthetic while still keeping elements from the hip-hop style. One of the strong points of their style is their hair. Throughout their career, they've used their hair as an accessory. In this era, their hair had mostly natural tones, but some members at certain points opted for platinum blonde or even burgundy orange, while others chose hairstyles with edgy cuts, undercuts, and lots of volume and structure from gel, all of which scream bold. At this point, the band was still shaping their identity and finding their footing in the industry. Their music was raw, rebellious, and gritty, mirroring the struggles of youth and what it meant to grow up. And their fashion reflected that. It roared in the name of construct. They stood out in all the right ways. They were loud, defiant, and unapologetic. It echoed their name, Bangtan Sonyeondan, bulletproof Boy Scouts. They were the shield, the armor, and the rebellion for youth. There was a shift in their aesthetics and styles with the new era of The Most Beautiful Moment in Life, Parts 1 and 2, through 2015. It ushered in a new side of the band. The rebellion was still intact, but it felt more vulnerable, softer, and fragile. It gave birth to their version of the romanticism of their fleeting youth. While still drawing inspiration from streetwear, their style had morphed into something that was nuanced in its expressionism. They leaned into very European-style influences, with subtle traces of fantasy and dark realism. From oversized sweaters and cardigans to floral prints, school uniforms with a twist, and even elegant sheer shirts, which mixed a very delicate femininity into their style. They started leaning heavily into accessorizing with jewelry. Whether it was delicate necklaces or statement earrings, everything held space for a story, an emotion, or a feeling. In this era, their hair played a more subtle role. The boys had mostly natural shades of brows with dainty highlights that simply lifted the color of their hair, giving them a very ethereal, natural, and fleeting feel. With the release of Wings in 2016, the group plunged headfirst into a rather dark, enigmatic, and sensual world. It was then that they released Blood, Sweat, and Tears. The metamorphosis for BTS. The catalyst for what was to come next. It was not the peak of their career, but simply the beginning. This era established the true romanticism of their style. They shifted from streetwear to tailored. Sharper silhouettes, richer fabrics, and bold jewelry were the highlights of this era. They leaned into wearing structured blazers, silk shirts, and even scarves on some occasions. Although there was one thing from this era that became a BTS signature, and that of course was their black skinny jeans. It was a mark from the previous years, a way of saying that even though they were morphing into something new, something big, their rebellious spirit was still intact. Even the hair colors were more romantic. Most of the boys had natural tones with ashy highlights, whilst a few members opted for an icy platinum blonde. It brought alive that nuanced mystery and soul in both their music and style. With the good always comes the bad. Unfortunately, not even BTS global fame can shield them from public skepticism and hate. In 2017-18, when the Hallyu fever was widespread on a worldwide scale and there were more eyes on the boys than ever before, they found themselves under intense scrutiny and backlash, from people questioning their talent to xenophobic remarks at their unprecedented breakthrough in the Western market. But BTS turned this backlash into fuel for growth with a poignant trilogy of albums labeled Love Yourself. This era delved deeply into themes of self-love, preservation, and kindness. It was vulnerable, honest, and showed immense growth. This transition was also reflected in their outfits. With the first album, Love Yourself, Her, they were still retaining echoes from the previous era, with silk shirts on denim, embellished jackets, and even pattern-on-pattern chaos. Then came Love Yourself, Tear, a more open and honest letter to their fans, from songs like Magic Shop and 134340. This album was a reflection of the growth and the healing with a touch of angst. This phase saw a lot of dark romanticism. Silk and sheer shirts, long dramatic coats, belts, and even bondage-inspired harnesses that were a visual symbol of emotional pain, vulnerability, and identity struggles. Finally, the closing album of this era is Love Yourself, Answer. This album was the perfect amalgamation of the previous two renditions. Even the style was a mix of the era's past, with a bit more refinement. Their hair in this era is one of the most remembered from their career. From platinum blonde to fiery red and even lavender, it became a reflection of their feelings. Yeah, you're making me a boy with love. That is what nostalgia sounds like to me. 2019 was one of the most iconic eras for K-pop, especially BTS. They were now front and center of global stardom with a massive fanbase, and it was getting even stronger with collaborations with Western artists. One of them being Boy with Love, Foot Halsey from their album Map of the Soul, Persona. A rich, introspective album that brought out the softer side of BTS. This era felt like the members finally stepping into their inner identities and personas, a nod to Carl Jung's theories that inspired the album title. The youngest member, Jeon Jungkook, had also started growing a tattoo sleeve. A very bold and personal shift in style for him. This was also seen in their outfits, from bright pastel shades to retro styles. Their style had evolved from angst to joy. There was an essence of dreaminess that felt optimistic and liberating. Their style was a massive shift from their previous eras. They wore everything from candy-colored suits to shirts with delicate embroidery and lace trims. The styling had a very feminine flair to it, and it evoked this deep sense of calm and happiness. Even their jewelry was subtle, delicate, and dainty. Their hair also reflected this playfulness, with perms and candy colors, everything from hot pink to electric blue. This era became one to remember not just for the music but also for the visuals. Before BTS ushered in their disco pop era, They showed a deeply vulnerable side of themselves through Map of the Soul 7 in early 2020. They released one of their most hauntingly beautiful songs, Black Swan, and they explored the fragility of artistry and the fear of creative silence. Visually, the era was rich and expressive, from beautiful flowing silk shirts and layered scarves that moved like water to feathered wings, each piece mirroring the emotional weight of the music. It was fashion as poetry, deeply theatrical and emotionally vulnerable. Then came the era that catapulted them into the stratosphere of superstardom. BTS entered the English-language pop world with songs like Butter, Dynamite, and Permission to Dance from the album B, capturing audiences beyond their already massive fandoms. Keeping in theme with their 2019 era, they maintained the bright pops of color but took on a retro flair with bell-bottoms, neck scarves, tinted glasses, printed shirts, and chunky accessories. Their hair in this era was once again bright, bold, and colorful, with the boys going viral now and then simply for the colors of their hair. Their album B was released in late 2020 at the height of the global lockdown. It served as a light, a hope, and a reminder of the good things about life when we were stuck in a moment of uncertainty. With the global lockdown in place, BTS reimagined how to connect with fans. And so they did, whether it was through live streams, virtual concerts, or even their annual fan meet. Then, in 2021, when things were looking more hopeful, BTS held an online live stream of their annual muster, Sowazu, in that year, wherein the group made headlines for their amazing performance and visuals. John Jungkook also revealed his entire tattoo sleeve for the very first time. In a country where tattoos are still considered culturally taboo, it not only marked a pivotal moment for him but also turned into a quiet rebellion, a signature trait of BTS. By mid-2022, they had hit a very reflective point in their career. With the world slowly opening up, yet uncertain, BTS, once again, found themselves at a point of introspection. They released their anthology album, Proof, which, as the title suggests, served as proof of their nearly decade-long career. This wasn't just a compilation, but also a milestone marker. Proof was honest, vulnerable, and defiant. It served as a reminder of who they were, who they are, and who they want to be. They also embodied this visually with their song, Yet to Come. Each member's outfit paid homage to a previous era, but now more refined. There were even subtle callbacks to past albums, which told a story of growth and becoming. From tailored suits, printed jackets, cardigans, and more, the styling struck a balance between the past and the present. It was sleek, minimalist, and sentimental. Not long after, at their 2022 Festa dinner special, the band announced their plans for military enlistment, leaving the fans with an emotional and bittersweet closure. It was goodbye for now, but certainly not the end, because BTS left with a promise that the best moment is yet to come.